Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So first up today, a quick note from yesterday's video. We talked a little bit about how the Pentagon might be picking up the bill to pay for Starlink in Ukraine so that Elon and SpaceX wouldn't have to. Well, now it looks like SpaceX has already withdrawn its request for funding, so Elon and SpaceX may continue to do this out of philanthropy. Elon said, to be precise, 25,300 terminals were sent to Ukraine, but only 10,630 are paying for service. Next up, we have what I think will be a low-key, really nice product for Tesla, especially in the commercial space. They just released this J1772 wall connector, and remember, all new Teslas do indeed come with an adapter for this, so if you have a Tesla, you can of course use this at home, but this will give you the option to also charge non-Tesla vehicles, so if friends or family come over to your house, it gives you more flexibility. More importantly though, you may remember earlier this year when we learned that Tesla was going to allow paid charging from these destination chargers. This same feature should be available on this new 1772. Why do I say that? Because on the listing itself, they specifically mention commercial charging. And if you go through this link, it'll bring you to this commercial registration form. And if you scroll down, you can check the box saying, I am interested in pay for use. This seems like a great value for $550. You can charge Teslas, non-Teslas, you can do load sharing, charging multiple vehicles at once, and avoiding potentially installing a bunch of new expensive electrical hardware. It has a long 24-foot cable. It's built for inside or outside use. You get the picture. I think this is a great product. Moving on from Drive Tesla Canada, Tesla has officially submitted VIN data to NHTSA. So here's that VIN data for the Tesla Semi. Just want to highlight a few things. First, digit 5 will be a B for day cab, which means maybe there will be a night cab where people can sleep for longer trips, but initially this is more focused on shorter trips. And of course, the all-important 11th digit, which tells us where this vehicle is going to be built. We get an N for the first time, which means yes, Reno, Nevada, Giga, Nevada. To date, North American-made vehicles by Tesla have had either the F for Fremont or the A for Austin in that 11th slot. Next up, we have what I thought was an awesome article by Tom Randall going over the renewable energy tipping points as we work our way up this S-curve and showing us where we're at from a global perspective. So far, globally, we have 87 different countries who are getting at least 5% of their energy from renewable sources. On this graph, we have lines for these 87 different countries, and the green is the 12-month moving average. Purple is the US. On the bottom, we have the number of years after crossing that 5% threshold, and on the y-axis we have the percent share of total capacity coming from renewables. What this means is the United States hit that 5% of energy coming from renewables 10 years ago. Fast forward to today and we sit around 20% of our electricity coming from renewable sources. So if the US follows the trends of the other countries that have gone before us, we should hit around 50% of electricity from renewables within another 10 years. And look, we've talked about the 5% tipping point on S-curve adoption many times in the past. Tom says once the tough investments in manufacturing have been made and consumer preferences start to shift, the first wave of adoption sets the conditions to go much bigger. We're seeing this everywhere we look. This was a cool stat. Every time the global supply of solar doubles, the cost of adding more installations declines by almost 30%. And I think this next point is really lost on most people, but at this point, it's not even so much about the economics because solar and wind really are that much cheaper, but now it's about permitting, interconnecting, and central planning when it comes to the grids. These processes aren't always able to keep up with the economics that are already superior to the older tech. Because of the adoption continuing to grow, wind and solar became the cheapest sources of new electricity capacity worldwide. And shifting to full battery electric sales, the United States recently crossed that 5% threshold. So if the US follows the trend established by 18 countries that preceded it, a quarter, 25% of new car sales could be electric by the end of 2025. On this chart, 0 is when the country crosses that 5% threshold of EV adoption. And as you can see, a lot of these are hitting this 30% market share between 2 and 5 years. When you factor in the Inflation Reduction Act and all of the EV marketing that's going to flood the market from these legacy OEMs, it's not going to be a surprise if the US hits a 30% BEV market share sometime around 2025. Looking at the 12-month moving average for these 19 countries, that 30% market share was reached about 4 years after hitting that 5% EV threshold. This data does not include plug-in hybrids. So sure, maybe an economic recession in 2023 slows this down a little bit, but whenever that subsides, we should be off to the races of a very exciting time. A lot of you know, I first found Athletic Greens when Lex Friedman was talking about it in his A Day in the Life video, and fast forward over a year later, and now another channel that I respect and trust, the Institute of Human Anatomy, is also recommending AG1. It's just not hard to see how so many Americans are lacking in key vitamins and minerals, in part due to a heavily processed American diet. Not having these key nutrients means your body cannot function optimally, and this plays itself out in ways we can all relate to: fatigue, anxiety, illness, the list goes on. AG1 has 75 vitamins, minerals, and probiotics that when taken consistently can support gut health, energy, immunity, recovery, and focus. You just mix 1 scoop in 8 ounces of water and your superfood drink is ready to enjoy. I do like to add AG1's vitamin D3 K2 as well. AG1 is also independently certified by NSF on an ongoing basis, so you can be sure you're getting only high quality ingredients. AG1 has offered to provide a year's supply of vitamin D3 K2 and 5 travel packs free of charge with every new purchase if you use my link in the description below. So if you're into wellness at all, I think checking out AG1 is worth a shot. In response to a TOSV video about Summon, Elon said, actually, Smart Summon is almost done. Another Twitter update, it was on my notes for yesterday, but I forgot it. Elon said standard non-performance 3-in-Y suspension in production now has improved comfort without affecting handling. And I think plenty of people who have been in a real luxury car that focuses on a great suspension and ride comfort, coming into a Tesla without that may be a little let down. But as always, Tesla continuing to improve. Elon also said that yes, he will be on the Q3 call tomorrow. So he definitely has something that he wants to talk about. I do think he will reiterate the 50% growth rate, but remind people that maybe it's 65% one year, 35% another year. It's not going to be 50% on the nose every year. I think he'll also touch on the delivery wave situation and what Tesla's focus is, how it's going to save them money, spending less on expedited delivery costs and things of that nature, making a better experience for the consumer and Tesla employees, because clearly many Tesla analysts still are having trouble understanding this topic. Next up, we have BEV registration data for Germany for the first 3 quarters of the year. Tesla, first place, 38,500 registrations, beating VW, who was in second by over 6,000. Compare that to the same time period in 2021, the first 3 quarters, Tesla's BEV registrations jumped 50% and VW's dropped 40% to 32,300, in line with a broader drop across all of VW's cars. Here we have Tesla reportedly leasing a pretty huge warehouse right on the border of Missouri and Illinois near St. Louis. Inside EV saying it'll have around 700,000 square feet of space. We don't yet know for sure what Tesla has intended for this location, but the word on the street is it could serve as a parts distribution center to again help with Tesla service, as it does have a central location. Tesla is looking to hire a supervisor for a parts facility in St. Louis. Next up, did you guys see this? Foxconn, the company that makes the iPhone for Apple, is now getting into EV manufacturing, and they're saying they want to make Tesla's EVs. The chairman of Foxconn said, based on our past records for the PC and cell phone markets, they have about 40 to 45% of overall market share. Now in the EV market, they're saying they'll start small, which is about 5% in 2025. And he said, I hope one day we can do Tesla cars for Tesla. Maybe it's just me, but Foxconn making the argument that because it's made cell phones well, it can now make EVs well is kind of like somebody who played ping pong in high school saying that, well, because we did well with that, now we're ready to play in the NFL. Anytime you get bold statements like this that they're going to halve EV design times and slash development costs by a third without any real backup, color me skeptical. Speaking of Apple, we get this, and I'm telling you guys, Apple is going to get into the car industry one way or another. I don't think they'll be making their own car, but there are plenty of other ways to get a piece of this pie. Mercedes-Benz has announced a new partnership with Apple Music and Universal Music Group, basically to bring spatial audio and Dolby Atmos into the Mercedes-Benz experience. In case you're not familiar with these two technologies, just think of it as a much more immersive experience. The sound can be crafted around you to make you feel like you're actually in the experience, whatever you're listening to. It can parse out different parts of the audio and place it in different places, again, to make it a more immersive experience. This means that Mercedes vehicles with the right hardware will be the first products outside of Apple's ecosystem to support Apple Music's spatial audio feature. This will be in cars like the S-Class, the EQE, and the EQS. And Universal Music Group is encouraging its artists and record labels to adopt Dolby Atmos audio mixing with an ear for automotive sound quality. Recordings that make the cut will receive a new approved in a Mercedes-Benz seal of approval. Now, I'm not an audiophile, but I am a huge lover of music, so I think this is awesome. Here, you're looking at the new Rolls-Royce EV, the Spectre Fastback Coupe. This car is not meant to have the best range or the best acceleration. It's a Rolls-Royce, so it's focused on being quiet and calm, and Rolls is saying it's going to be like a magic carpet ride. The first cars are set to reach customers in late 2023. And we don't have the official data yet, but the estimated EPA range is in the neighborhood of 260 miles. And again, the estimate for the cost of this vehicle will be around $400,000. So you can add this to the list of cars I would never buy, but the more cars that go EV, the better. Shifting gears to another ultra luxury segment EV from GM, the Celestiq. This is going to directly take on cars from Bentley and Rolls-Royce. So what's Cadillac really doing here? They're focused on creating a halo car that's going to help Cadillac's image overall, rather than fueling sales or profit. They've said it's more about what it does for Cadillac and how it lifts the other Cadillac variants. Customers will be able to customize nearly all aspects of the vehicle's interior trim, the exterior color, and other non-mechanical elements. They'll be able to work with designers and a Cadillac concierge to customize their vehicle. The good news is ultra luxury buyers usually aren't impacted by inflation or an economic slowdown. Cadillac said it will have capacity to build fewer than 2 vehicles per workday, but this car will be sold globally. The Celestiq will only be available by request, with a significant deposit needed to begin the build process, production starting December 2023. And it looks like Cadillac is going to use mega castings that we've seen somewhere else before to hold its 111 kilowatt hour Ultium battery pack. Next up, from Bloomberg, South Africa was set to receive an $8.5 billion climate aid package that's actually being paid for by the US, UK, Germany, France, and the EU. The problem is how the funds are going to be spent. The funding cohort wants them almost entirely invested in replacing the country's coal-fired power plants with renewable energy. But South Africa wants a big chunk of the money to go into developing EV manufacturing. So at a bit of a crossroads right now. Here we have Intel looking to proceed with its IPO of Mobileye. As you could imagine though, not the best time to be IPOing right now. Originally, they were expecting to be valued in the neighborhood of $50 billion. Now, they're only expecting around $20 billion given the macro condition. Mobileye plans to be listed on the NASDAQ under the ticker MBLY and should begin trading on October 26th. Intel will keep most of the money from the IPO and use some of those funds to build more chip plants. Next, a warning for everyone to heed.
Things are definitely going to go into kind of autonomous, or locally autonomous drone warfare is where it's at, where the future will be. I'm just saying, it's not I want the future to be this. It's just this is what the future will be. is autonomous drone warfare.
Elon then shared this article on the topic that I will link below, and then later he said, should I make weapons? Ideally not. Next up, just a quick note on the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index. As you can see, it's finally trending down, still significantly elevated from historic levels, but now going in the right direction. Here we have Elon saying that he has a plan to deal with all of the bots on Twitter. Last up for today, shout out to Matthias for putting this chart together, and just a quick note on Tesla's earnings tomorrow, Wednesday. My video will be later in the day after the Tesla earnings call. The first two numbers I'll look at tomorrow are Tesla's automotive gross margin x regulatory credits, and second would be Tesla's operating profit. This table will give us a great range though for GAAP earnings per share. On the low end, we have the Wall Street consensus, 91 cents per share. And on the high end, we have Good Soil Investment at $1.22. So of course, keep in mind GAAP EPS numbers can always be manipulated, and it's not really a great indication of how the quarter went. You have to get a little bit more into the detail. However, this will give us a good idea of that bottom line number and what people were expecting. For me, for Tesla's auto gross margin X credits, if it's better than Q2, I would consider that a win, so anything above 26%. And when it comes to Tesla's overall operating margin, again, Q2 was 14.6%, so anything above 15%, personally, given everything that happened in Q3, I think that would be very solid. Believe it or not though, more important than any of those numbers we just talked about, it's all going to be about Tesla's guidance for the future, production and deliveries. Are they going to announce another factory? Are they committed to 50% year-over-year growth? Are they seeing any demand weakness anywhere? That's what Wall Street will be looking for. And if you're interested, don't forget, check out AG1 linked below to take advantage of those freebies while you can. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.